I want you to try something before I say anything else. Put your phone face down. Put both your hands on your lap, empty. Now, sit still and do nothing at all until you notice the first urge to reach for something, anything, the phone, a pen, a cup, your own hair. I'll wait. Most women in my caseload reach 9 seconds. Some reach 4. And here's what matters. It doesn't feel like anxiety. It feels like remembering something you need to do. That's the disguise. If you just reached, this file is yours. I'm Andrea Smith, a clinical therapist with 25 years experience working with high-performing women. I practice CBT, EMDR, and clinical hypnotherapy. This is the second part of the series, focusing on root causes. Today, we are examining root 4, the idea that stopping is unsafe. Is a common belief. If I'll stop, something bad will happen. This belief feeds the pattern I call the pusher, and this lesson explores the core underneath that pattern. By the end, you'll understand what your body is truly monitoring for. Why your recovery tracker might be making things worse, and the protocol I use to lower your guard. Details have been modified and combined to protect my clients. Call her Nadia. Nadia operated a product business, generating just over 1.5 million in revenue. She approached me because she had a cough that had lasted 14 weeks. Not out of dissatisfaction. The cough was insignificant compared to her energy. She had attended a 3-day trade show on antibiotics and launched a collection from her hotel room using a laptop balanced on a pillow, and recounted these stories as casually as others talk about a great holiday. With 11 years in business, she had never taken 2 consecutive weeks off. The most telling details from her file is that in over 6 years, 19 launches, she had never left a gap between completing one project and starting the next. No weeks, no weekends. The next project is always already underway before the previous one had concluded. Her cover story was what I hear most often, delivered with a slight laugh. I'm just driven. But observe its form. A mature woman pauses after completing her work, seeing rest as the reward. Nadia eliminated every possible point where the work would end. So there was no clear finish line on her schedule. That isn't a true drive. Drive has a purpose. What she had was a destination she was fleeing from. Before I show you the wiring, let me correct the mechanism, because it explains why everything she tried had failed and why one of them had made it measurably worse. In round 1 of the series, I told you the pusher is a freeze response running in reverse. That's still true. And if you want the full mechanism, episode 8 is linked at the end. But today, we're just one flow down, because a reverse freeze response has been directed at something. Your body doesn't fear stopping in the abstract. It fears stopping because at some point, stopping and catastrophe had arrived in the same week. And a young nervous system did what young nervous systems do. It drew a straight line between the two. I call it the coincidence rule. The body is not a scientist. It does not test the alternative explanation. It records what happened immediately before the disaster and files it as the cause. Once stopping is filed as the cause of something terrible, the rest is no longer neutral. Rest is negligence, which means every time you try to relax, your own nervous system reads it as an act of recklessness and floods you accordingly. Now, the modern cure through that missionary. This is the part I expect to be argued about, and I'll stand behind it. The recovery optimism industry. Guess what it does? Recovery scores, strain metrics, sleep stages on the graph, rest with a number attached. So, for most people, mildly useful. But for a woman with this root, it is the single most efficient way to make the problem worse. And I've watched this happen repeatedly in clinic, because you have not given her rest. You have given her a new post to stand, something to monitor overnight, a score she can fail. Nadia's tracker told her one morning that recovery was 31%. And do you know what she did with that information? She rescheduled her day to work harder. So the number would be better tomorrow. She turned recovery into a deliverable. Of course she did. That's what this route does to any instruction you hand it. Now, here's the straightforward version. You can't optimize your way out of a vigilant state, because optimization itself is a form of vigilance. Rest that is associated with a score isn't true rest. It's just a shift in awareness. In session 3, I asked Nadia the question I ask everyone with this root. Not, when did you get like this? I asked this one. What were you listening for, Nadia? She answered it in under 2 seconds, which is always a tell. She was 9, her mother had been ill that winter and got up in the night, unsteady, and the house had one bathroom at the top of the stairs. Nadia's bedroom was the nearest to the landing. Nobody sat her down and gave her the job. She simply took it, the way children do, and lay awake, listening for the creak of her mother's door so she could get there first. And then one night, she slept through the creak of the door. Her mother fell down the stairs and was on the floor until morning. Do you know, Nadia was 9 years old. She was not a night nurse. She had no clinical responsibility for a grown woman on a staircase. The fall was not caused by a child sleeping. I have said that sentence to her more than once, and I'll keep saying it. But her nervous system had already done its arithmetic that night, at 9, and reached a conclusion that has been running her business for 30 years. I stopped, and it happened. I call this the night shift. The child who took a post no one assigned her for, and who was never relieved of it. And this is why just rest more is not merely unhelpful for this woman. It is an instruction to abandon her mother on a staircase. Her current business is entirely focused on constant overlapping activities that prevent any downtime. The launch schedule overlaps completely, leaving no window for issues to go unnoticed. She's often on her phone at dinner, just listening in, and has conducted 19 launches without any breaks for reflection or to consolidate what worked. Additionally, she hasn't raised her prices in 4 years because any review would require a gap, which doesn't exist. I call it the overlap tax. It costs my clients thousands of pounds annually in missed opportunities and unrepeated successes because it's hidden on balance sheets. It simply appears as being busy. Then Nadia said the line I want you to hear. I'm still listening for a door that isn't there. So the work became practical. You cannot talk a century of her post. You have to relieve her formally. There's a reason armies conduct a handover and simply don't just tell the night guard to cheer up. I call it the handover. 4 steps. Step 1. Name the post loud. 1 sentence spoken, not written. I was 9 and I was listening for my mother's door. Whatever yours is. That specificity is the active ingredient. A vague, I had a stressful childhood changes nothing because the body isn't holding a theme. It's holding a post. So, if nothing comes in 10 seconds, ask my question instead of the usual one. Not what happened. What were you listening for? Step 2. Regulate before you relieve her. 90 seconds. In through the nose for 4. That means in breaths for 4. Out breaths through the mouth for 8. You know why by now. You cannot update a thread file from within a thread state. Calm first, always. In breath for 4 and out through your mouth for 8. Step 3. The empty-handed minute on a ladder. 60 seconds sitting, hands empty, no phone, no music, no walk, nothing to convert it into. The pull to reach will arrive within seconds. Do not obey it and do not fight it either. Say this instead silently. The post is covered because it is. Your mother is not on the stairs. Whatever you were 9 years old, and guarding is either over or genuinely someone else's job now. Then escalate on the ladder, the way we do with any exposure. 1 minute daily a week, and then 3, and then 10, and then a gap between the 2 projects. The body updates 1 rung at a time. Step 4. Log the gap, 1 line in pen. What I feared would happen in the gap and what had actually happened. This column is the whole treatment because the coincidence rule was built on a single piece of evidence and can only be dismantled with more. By week 3, Nadia's log was the most persuasive document in her file, and for the same reason it always is. The catastrophe had a perfect attendance record of never showing up. The rule on all 4. You do not need more rest. You need proof that the gap is safe. Day 30. Nadia's file shows 3 entries. She typically waited 4 days before finishing 1 collection and starting the next. Her first such gap in 6 years. During these days, she reviewed her numbers, increased her prices by 22%, a change she had planned since 2022. The empty-handed minute stretched from 9 seconds to 1 full minute over 19 days, with the log tracking the slope. Additionally, her cough resolved on the 3rd week, not because I treated it, but because her body maintained at that level of readiness for 11 years has little reserve left to fight infections. And then the honest entry she still reaches. In the gaps at the dinner table at 9 at night, 30 days do not retire the entire 30-year post. But she hears the reach now in real time, and she can name what she's listening for. A watch you can name is a watch you can hand over. Before the end, tell me in the comments, just the number, how many seconds you lasted with your hands empty. That's it, just the number. I read every single one, and I'd like you to see how many other women are near 9. And if you want to know which one of these 9 patterns this route is running in you, the pusher rarely travels alone. Most women run 2 to 3. My free inner critic scorecard finds your dominant one in 3 minutes. First link is in the description. Next in the series, Route 5, Broken Self-Trust. I can't just trust my own judgment. The route behind the woman who reaches the same decision for 11 weeks. Ask 4 people what they think and believes the 4th. And has a folder of good instincts she overrode. It grows the doubt. And it was wired into homes where her own read on the room was corrected when she stopped filling it. If you have ever known the answer and asked anyway, the file is already yours. I'll see you in there. Thank you so much for watching. Bye for now.